Hello, this is Dirk Young from King Luma, and in this video we'll be spending a few minutes taking a look at the Luma Glow and Luma Raise effects within the King Luma Radiance product. King Luma Radiance includes both effects and transitions, and we'll be taking a look at the effects in this video. So I'm in the effects browser, and I have the King Luma Radiance category selected, and if I scroll up and down here you see a few different themes: Luma Glow Basic, Luma Glow Full, Luma Raise Basic, and Luma Raise Full. Now the basic versions do have fewer parameters. They're somewhat feature-reduced versions, but they also are quite capable effects and can do a lot of what you'd want to do with a glow or raise effect. And within each theme, you basically have presets. So these are different default states for each of these effects to kind of get you started on the type of effect that you're looking for. So for now, to get us going, we'll scroll down to Luma Glow Full, and I'll just throw sort of a default Luma Glow Full onto this image. Now, one thing I hope to achieve is to explain these on-screen controls, because these on-screen controls are actually very important and useful parameters to know about to get started with these effects. So you see here the parameter list over here: Luma Threshold, Threshold Smoothness, and Glow Brightness. Now those three parameters are represented by these three on-screen sliders. So that's the threshold, threshold smoothness, and brightness. Now, as you may already know, glow and light raise kinds of effects are largely dependent on the actual luminance values of the image they're applied to. And so we knew that people would be wanting to adjust these and access these frequently to sort of tune these effects to the specific image that the effect is applied to at the time. Now the next few parameters you see: glow softness, horizontal softness, and vertical softness are basically these. So that's the overall softness, and then you have separate control for horizontal and vertical. Now another kind of on-screen control that you'll sometimes see involves the shape mask. So if I choose circle, you see this circle appear, and you can scale it by clicking in here, and you can of course move it. This is an XY parameter point. And then this will basically allow for, a smoother sort of fall off for the mask edge rather than, just a sort of a harder edge mask. There's a few different kinds of effects. Most of them have a similar, a few different kinds of masks. Most of them have a similar on-screen control. There's a bar, which, you can angle, vertical bar, horizontal bar, and kind of move that for sort of highlight effects that move across the screen. And then there's a gradient, which has a somewhat unique UI element here on screen. So I'm going to make it sort of a harder edge gradient, and then this is unique to the gradient. It's to control the gradient angle, and then you can control this position, and then that circle will soften the gradient edge. So that's the gradient mask. So I'm going to disable the mask for now. Now, one thing that both the masks and the Luma Threshold have in common is what they're doing is they're determining which pixels, will generate a glow, or in the case of light raise effects, will generate light rays. Now, using this threshold, it's always going to be the brighter pixels that are going to generate the most glow or most light rays. But you might find yourselves in situations where, that's not exactly what you want to happen. And that's where this color matte feature comes in. And if I enable this, I'll kind of show you how this works. So I'm going to click on this select color chip, grab this little eyedropper, and get some of this blue color in here. You see right away what you have is that it's glowing where the blue is, and there's a sort of parameter for adjusting the color tolerance and softness of this mask. And what I want to do in this case is glow everywhere except in the blue, because I want to kind of create sort of a foreground background feeling of this. And again, let me just adjust that tolerance a little bit. And so now, you can kind of create, rather than a really obvious kind of glow, you can create sort of a more subtle looking lighting effect. So if I reduce the brightness up near the top here, in each of these effects, there's an overall opacity of the effect thing that you can adjust. And this parameter can generate more from the edge, sometimes useful. It pays attention to the luminance edges and generates a stronger glow or light rays there. What you're going to find when we get to the light rays is that a lot of the controls are the same. They're very similar style of effects. Fade this down a little bit. See, now you basically have, what was a very kind of flat looking image, and you kind of give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more pop with this sort of subtle glow effect. Why don't we move on to the next image and take a look at light rays? And I'm going to scroll down and LumaRays Basic. Maybe choose this preset called Circle Mask Rays. Select that. So it's using the circle mask now. I'm just going to make the circle mask really big, I think, for now. And it's kind of bright, and the rays are a little long. So this slider becomes the ray length in the light rays filter. This was the softness and the glow. And this is another example where basically you see here, for us to create a kind of effect that's well tuned to this specific image, I can just use the threshold. I'm going to lower the threshold smoothness and just pump up the threshold until I'm not seeing rays on his face anymore. And so now you see that basically we have we have this sense that basically the light source is somewhere behind these people. And indeed, you see that there's turn this off, that there is sort of a window or door or something like that back here. So if I want to make it seem like the light rays are coming from here, just close this down a little bit. And, so you can actually create a pretty good sense of depth simply using a threshold, in a lot of situations. So I can make it seem like it's over here. And what else can I do? While I'm in here, I'll show, it's got good color features. You can tint using two different colors, gradient here. You can, you don't have to choose whether you're using an artificial color or the source. You kind of mix between the two. And you have saturation control. So that's sort of a warmer, sort of solar looking light rays effect. Or I could give it a cooler look as well. And there's some auto-animating features like flicker and shimmer in these effects. So if I turn up the shimmer, and maybe turn up the shimmer size, you can kind of see what's going on there. And play it with some shimmer. You see how quickly you can kind of get a pretty nice looking light rays effect going. Now, one thing I wanted to show, I was going to use this image to show, was to point out an important thing having to do with these shape masks. Now, if I apply this, again, I think it's the circle mask preset. And actually, I'm going to turn down the circle mask intensity. So here are these light rays, and some of you may say, oh, wait a minute, Final Cut Pro already has shape masks. And if I click here, indeed, I can say Add Shape Mask. And I can do this to give it a hard edge. But you see the difference. This shape mask is basically an output mask. It's sort of masking the output of the effect and compositing over the original image, which is not what the built-in shape masks from the Radiance product are doing. If I turn this up and click on here, so by the way, if you ever want to not see the on-screen controls, you just click off the name of the effect. Maybe most of you know that already. So I'm going to give this circle mask a hard edge. But basically, you see that if you watch this white line as I grow this mask, as soon as it touches an area, that area starts to cast rays. So basically, the mask, is not cropping the effect. It's an input mask. It's determining which parts of the image are going to be able to generate rays or glow or something like that, which importantly allows for that effect to extend beyond the edges of the mask, which is generally what you want in light rays and glow effects. Finally, let me just play down this effect here that I made. And basically what you have here is another light rays effect. Even when you're not creating sort of a realistic style light effect, even when it's something more stylized, more obvious, such features are useful as these sort of color matte and luma threshold and stuff like that. So in this case, if I disable the color matte, this is actually what this effect is doing. But because I sampled, his skin tone and told it to affect the unselected colors, I was easily able to make it not affect his face. And then this title flies in on the freeze frame, and then we wipe with a LumaGlow wipe, which is a transition from the Radiance product, from the freeze frame to the moving video. So the next video will deal with transition effects.